I'm sure that as one gets older, time seems to move so quickly, and it's surprising to me that the first time I met April is now almost a year ago, when we were at the Hampton Court Flower Show, and I was speaking there about a wonderful garden that Abbeyfield had created. And we followed that with attendance and participation in your conference in Manchester back in October. And it's there I'd like to start because I think the first piece I'd like to share with you is the talk I delivered at the conference. So here we go. As a former teacher, head teacher and schools advisor, speaking to audiences as an Alzheimer's Society ambassador, an NHS dementia envoy, it's something I'm more used to than most. Originally, I would refer to notes. Then I'd have my talk scripted on font 12. Now I'm working from font 16 and have said that when I have to go beyond font 20, that's the time I'll call it a day. Please accept my apologies for reading from a script. Whilst I refuse to be defined by my dementia, to an extent, understandably, it often influences how I live with it and tackle day-to-day living. For the past 6 years, I have knowingly been increasingly sharing my brain with an unwelcome and unwanted guest, Dr. Alzheimer. You see, Alzheimer stays with me 24/7. Sometimes in the background, watching and waiting for an opportunity to make mischief. Sometimes leading me up a pathway where I do not seek to go. And on other occasions he is fleeing from the sun, which I strive so dearly to light up my life, brought out by a treatment or intervention or love from a professional, a friend or a family member. I know what dementia is really like because I live with it. My wife knows what young onset is really like because she lives with me. Others who share my life are so much more welcome and friendly, amongst whom are my 3 adult children and my 3 grandchildren. So often professionals and public alike have a preconceived idea of what a person with dementia will look and act like. To be honest, I had the same view when my mother was diagnosed in her mid-70s and lived with Alzheimer's until her death in a care home at the age of 82. Before I was diagnosed, almost 6 years ago, aged 55, I had the view that dementia was like this for everyone. I had no idea that it could affect people in their 60s, their 50s, or even their 40s. But as people are more accurately diagnosed sooner, and then through a fit-for-purpose care plan, which is beginning to happen, are better supported and treated, then the stereotype is less accurate, and consequently the stigma which is attached can also be reduced. Without support and treatment, the benefits of a diagnosis are less clear. I mentioned treatments. So often this has a pharmacological emphasis, in other words, a pill or medicine. I do take galantamine, and I am now on the maximum dose, which may help me, but it isn't a cure or an effective treatment for my Alzheimer's. I feel strongly that support and care are just as effective in helping me deal with my dementia as the medication. At the centre of this is the model Tom Kitwood devised back in the 1990s. At the centre of this for me is what I call the Kitwood flower, and I carry that everywhere with me in my diary. Speaking of flowers, Rosemary and I were thrilled to be at the evening event in the Abbeyfield garden at Hampton Court in order to meet with staff and representatives from the society in attendance, and to witness firsthand the significant piece of work which was so amazingly brought together, and then to see that the garden was to continue to enhance the life of residents and staff in one of your care homes. Gardening is more than a hobby for Rosemary and I. It is a passion. It so enriches our lives. It is something we can share by way of the labour and then enjoy the rewards, and is one reason we so love living where we do. Having said that, one fear I have is that one day we will no longer be able to cope with living in our own home and will have to leave our garden and move to a home or sheltered housing. I do not want to live in a home where I am incarcerated and see the outside world from an armchair. I want to see and touch the flowers, feel the air on my face, hear the bees busily visiting the flowers and birds squabbling over nuts in a feeder. My sense of smell is no longer as good as it was, but there are still fragrances in the garden which I can enjoy. I want to talk to staff about what I see and feel during this experience. I know from speaking to staff and leaders within Abbeyfield that what your website and your document states is true. We share the same desire, the same vision for both residents and staff. Other interests I have and would wish to retain include an eclectic taste in music, listening these days rather than performing, a wide choice of reading, although, alas, I seldom recall what I've read these days, and an interest in the broader arts, but as an observer, not a participant. That is not to say that with patient encouragement from one of your staff, I wouldn't walk away from the chance to try new things. Along with sorting one's affairs through power of attorney and wills, one key benefit of a diagnosis beyond knowing at last what it is that one is confronting and what support, if any, is available to deal with it, is the opportunity to meet and cooperate with others in a similar situation. This is made easier through an initiative called DEEP. That means Dementia, Engagement and Empowerment Project. I know Abbeyfield are justly proud that a DEEP group is being set up in a care home in Winnersh. This is the first, I hope, of many, as previously the expectation has been that involving, engaging and empowering people with dementia at this stage was too difficult. I applaud and endorse this initiative and wish it every success. It is something I would crave when I reach this stage in my pathway into care. I know from both being a leader of a large school and an advisor to 23 schools the importance of recruiting, training, supporting, retaining and rewarding good staff members. Staff do need to see working with the elderly and vulnerable as a vocation. It is not always easy, but it can be immensely rewarding through caring for a person, sharing time and stimulating conversation and activity, sharing hopes and fears, through enjoying the environment both inside and outside together. I totally support the Christian principles of care and compassion which your organisation seeks to follow. They are principles that I too hold dear and try to follow. Residents are far from a blank canvas or a blank sheet of paper. We come to you often with a rich encyclopedia of experience and interest, and if you can unlock this, it will enrich everyone's life and bring out the sun from which Dr. Alzheimer flees. When interviewed on Radio 4's You and Yours programme, I was asked my main fears about having dementia. Without hesitation, I answered living in a care home where my needs were not being met. Thank you, Abbeyfield, for helping both myself and Rosemary see that this fear need not be one we carry with us.